So now let's talk about something very important. One of the ancient practice that is fading out. You know that in Eastern geomancy, this is basically more of what Eastern geomancy than Western geomancy. You know, in Eastern geomancy, there are some cases whereby sometimes when the geomancer casts a chart finish, the chart will be telling the geomancer that before you interpret this chart, you need to do some sadakos or make some offering. I don't know if anybody here knows about that. That there are cases whereby you cast a chart finish, immediately you cast it finish, before you interpret that chart, the chart will be instructing you that before you say anything you see about the chart, you need to first of all go and offer some sadako or make some offering before you can do that. I don't know if you are not aware of that, it happens in Eastern geomancy. When you meet with people who are well deep in Eastern geomancy, you see, like I always say, geomancy, especially Eastern geomancy, is not a child play. There's more to it than the surface level. The Eastern geomancy is more spiritual than the surface level. One can say that Western geomancy is more physical or scientific than the spiritual, while the Eastern geomancy is more spiritual than the physical. It has some deeper things in it. So but that is not the difference between Western and Eastern geomancy. I just want you to understand that there are some practice in Eastern geomancy that are very deep. So if you are not aware of that there are times that the chart will be instructing you that before you interpret a chart, you need to offer a side call. I'm just using the opportunity to tell you that there are cases like that, but that is not where we are going in on this particular video section. Where we are going in this particular section is this: there are cases whereby a chart is interpreted, a chart is casted. So before you interpret that chart, the chart will be telling you that there is something that the querent needs to know before you interpret this chart. There are things the querent needs to have heard or know or be aware of before you can interpret this particular chart for him or her. Unlike the one that I just explained, that one's talked about, that the geomancer needs to offer some sadako, or that a sadako, either the geomancer or the querent, a sadako needs to be offered before it can be by the geomancer, it can be by the querent. That was one I talked about earlier. But in this particular video, I'm talking about that there are cases whereby the chart will be instructing the geomancer that querent, the one asking the question, there are certain things, informations he needs to know before you interpret this particular chart for him or her. It is just like maybe a querent. I'm just using an example which is not related to this, but it's a closer example that I can easily use for you to understand. Virtually, let's say you want to talk about things of higher institution, things of somebody that's supposed to be in university. You want to talk with somebody, that person should have some elementary knowledge about, maybe the person have to have gone to maybe secondary school or high school. After getting to high school, by the time you are explaining some topic to that person, the topic of higher institution, topics that are supposed to be not at a university, by the time you are explaining for such person that has gone through some elementary courses or that has gone through higher or secondary schools, it will be easier for that person. But somebody who has not been to secondary school, that high school, maybe still a primary school level, and you want to discuss something of higher university for that person might not easily understand. You understand? That is a similar case of what I'm trying to explain now. I hope with that example you'll be able to understand what I'm talking about now. That there are cases that the chat will tell you that before you interpret this so chat for this person, there are certain things that the querent or the person needs to know before you interpret this particular chart. So now in this video, I want to talk about how you can know that what the chart is saying, that before you can interpret this chart, this querent needs to know certain things. That is number one thing I want to discuss in the video. Number two things I want to discuss in this video, that how would querent know certain things? What should querent do? You have to know those certain things before you can interpret this chart. So that is basically things I want to explain in this video. Now let's start immediately. Now, anytime this is how it is. Anytime you cast a chart and your domino fall in house 8, anytime you cast a chart and your domino fall in house 8, it is telling you that before you interpret that chart, before you say anything, there is something that the querent needs to know before you interpret that chart. Mind you, if you interpret that chart without following this procedure, that doesn't mean that something will not, that doesn't mean that the chart you want to say will not be correct. Because there are times, even myself, even before I got to know this, I have interpreted the mirror, I have interpreted the chart that fall in house 8 without do you understand? But there are some spiritual implications to it based on the understanding that well, it happens. So it's better to follow the standard. You understand what? Things that will be happening that you might not know where it is. You understand? But don't let us go into that. But it's good to follow what the standard. I'm just trying to say that well, if you do not follow that standard, you do not follow that doesn't mean that something or whatever. That doesn't mean that well, the reading you want to do or interpretation you want to do, that doesn't mean that it will not be correct. But there are some spiritual energy attached to it that is not too good. So I just want you to get that clear. So that you won't be that if I not do it, what will happen? I'm just trying to tell you. Because me too, I've interpreted chat that happens in house. This thing that I not tell the query. No, as we learn virtually every time, we gain. So I just want you to have that confidence that one. It is good to follow the standard, but if you don't follow this, that doesn't mean. But they are just that one. There are spiritual negativity attached to it. Now let's go to that. So whenever the domino of a chart end in house 8, it is saying one of the things is saying that one there are certain things that the querent needs to know before the geomancer interpret that chart. Then how do you then know what the querent needs to know before you interpret that chart? This is how it is being done. This is what you will do. Now you will get the house 4, sorry, house 5, house 6, house 7, and house 8. So you will use this particular 4. You have casted the chart and the chart ended in the domain of that chart ended in house 8. It has told you that what the querent needs to know certain things before you will interpret that chart. Then how do you then know the certain thing that the querent needs to know before you interpret that chart? You now go to house 4, house 5, house 6, house 7, house 8 of that chart. You will use it to generate another chart. The information in that chart is what the querent needs to know before you will interpret this main chart. Let's say this is the house 4 of the chart. Now this is how you will generate that chart. You will take this figure, this last figure. These are the 4 houses out, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is how you use to generate another chart. You will take it from here. This one. Oh no, when we want to do it from here, we will take all this one to create house 5. But in this case, if you want to generate chart like that, you will take this one, this one, this one, this one to make house 1. Nice. We have Adoika here. We have what we are Ashkaf here. Excuse me. So you will, that is 1, 1, 2, 1. That is 1, 1, 2, 1. Then here you put it this way. That's 1, 2, 1, 2. Then you put this one here. That is what Ashikafu. You have it 1, 1. So you will now, this one is from the previous chart. So you have used this one to generate the mother figure. So once you now generate the mother figure, you now cast the chart out. You have already written out the main chart out. The house 4 of this one, house 5, 6, 7, 8 of the main chart is what you use to generate the mother figure. You will now use the mother figure to generate the whole chart. Don't let me waste time by casting the whole chart out. So you now use it to generate the whole chart out properly. This one will then be, but let me just use it for this or something. This one will then be, it will be like this. Then it will be this. Then it will be this normal way. Normally do it by Ado. Then this one will give us 2, 1, 2, 1. So this is what we will generate. Then you now do the rest of the whole chart here and here. So once you have done the whole things out, you will now, the chart you have created with the news chart, you will now give it to the querent that should take it to any other geomancer that he knows or any other person that knows how to interpret that other person. He should go and give it to them to interpret it for him or her. So he should go to various places. He should not go to one just place. So once he has gone to various places, he should, all those things that they told him, he should come back to come and tell you. One of them will tell him or her what he needs to know before you will then interpret that chart. Then how will you as a geomancer knows what the querent needs to hear? Before you, that old chart that you have, go to house 7 of that chart. A figure that is there, let's say it is Umura that is there, it means that one of those geomancer that he take that chart to must tell us something very important about you have to first of all, sorry, you have to first of all understand what we mean by what tasking. There's this tasking called tasking Basidawo. The figure, people in Eastern Geomancy will understand this better, but let me make it understand to everybody. Let's say the figure you found in house 7 of that old chart, the one you casted that you keep. Let's say it is Toriki, this figure. This Toriki in under Teskin Basidao, it means child. Let's say the figure you meet in house 7 of that old chart, it means that one of those geometry that is going to meet, one of them must tell him something striking, something very vast, very important, something tangible about child. So if the querent take all the chart to various geomasters, maybe they take it to various geomasters, maybe like 10 geomaster or whatever number of geomaster, and none of them talks about something striking about child, it means that well, he has not heard what he needs to hear before you interpret that chart. So, but you will not tell that querent that well, this is what he needs to hear. Just tell him that he should keep on going till he hear. There are times whereby as a geomancer, when you cast a chart finish, you will know that it will show that well, this person needs to hear something. You only hear want to hear. I don't know. In Eastern geomancy, in Western geomancy, there are things like that too. That well, once you cast a chart for somebody, the chart will automatically tell that this person there's something he needs to hear. That if you say anything contrary to that thing that he needs to hear, he will not listen. But in this case, you will be the one to give that querent your chart. Not that what is taken to the geomancer and they need to cast for him. No, you have already casted the new chart. You have given it to him or her. Then he begins to take taking it around. So by the time you go, tell him to go to like 3 or 4, whatever. Just mention, tell you. So by the time he comes back, then you now begins to ask, what is this person? You tell him what did you collect all those data. You now look for the one that talked about. Let's say it is Toriki. No, Toriki from Basidawu Tasking. It means child. It means that one of them must contain child-related matter. If it doesn't contain, if none of them contain child-related matter, that means he has still not hear what he needs to hear before you then interpret the whole child. I just use Toriki. It could have been any figure. That's why I said you have to understand the Tasking Basidawu. This Toriki means child in Tasking Basidawu. Let's say it is Umura. Tasking Basidawu is saying that well, it must be something related to female relationship, partner, blah 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 like that. Let's say it is Kobdu Karaji, this particular figure that is in house 7. It means that well, in any of the one must talk about ailment, sickness, anything related to sickness, must talk about that. So it's not about that. It is not as if it must be child. I just use because I mentioned Toriki. Let's say it is house 7. So the most important is that what the how that will show what the querent needs to hear is what house the figure you find in house 7, the figure that is the figure it is house 7, then it is figure that you found that will now determine what the querent needs to hear. I don't know if anybody understand what I'm trying to say at all. But if at all you understand, you should be able to understand. But you are not the one that will tell the querent that thing that he needs to hear. You will take the chart and when it's now come back, you will then now interpret the chart, the initial chart, the original chart. You will now interpret it properly. That is how the chart usually instruct us whenever we find a figure. Whenever we find Domiru figure, whenever we find Domiru in house 8. Like I said earlier, if you find Domino and you don't follow all this procedure, that doesn't mean that whatever you want to say will not be correct. It might depend on your understanding. It might still be correct, but there are some spiritual implication attached to it, and it's good to avoid those things and follow a proper procedure. And that's why I use the example for somebody in university and somebody in a lower class, and you want to. Do you understand? Don't let me repeat the same thing. So that is how. I hope you enjoyed this. So the point here is that there are cases whereby the chart will tell us that before you interpret a chart, some offering will be asked us to chart. Sometimes the chart will ask us before you interpret this particular chart, you have to make some offering or offer some sadaqah. There are cases like that in Eastern Geomancy. And in Eastern Geomancy, there are cases like that. There are cases whereby the chart will instruct you that before you interpret this chart, the querent needs to hear 1 or 2 things, something he needs to know about before you interpret that chart. And so many other things. So I hope you understand this and I hope you enjoy it. So if there's any other question, you can always ask it under the comment section and I will always answer you, inshallah. Thank you for watching the video. May God bless you miraculously.